Joaquin, because you're listening, take on like a funny movie. Just do a comedy.
This scene is freaking beautiful.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Chumps, where chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the one and only Danny.
This week we are kicking off our month-long watch of thriller, spooky, and some scary movies. We are starting off with the 2002 film Signs, directed and written by M. Night Shyamalan, starring Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, Rory Culkin, and Abigail Breslin.
So we mentioned last week at the end of our last episode that you and I were not horror fans.
We are not horror fans.
There's nothing wrong with horror. It's just not my cup of tea. At least I'm not gonna see this new Exorcism movie that's coming out.
the Venice
the Haunting in Venice looks actually. I would like to see that because it's taking the characters from Agatha Christie, and it's an original story from a continuation of Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and so I
don't think I actually realized that.
Yeah, it's what's his name, Poirot with the mustache.
Yeah.
I pronounced that way off.
I totally didn't even connect that.
And I'm pretty sure it's an original story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that one's cool. But like that new Exorcism movie, I was watching.
Yeah.
What was it? I was on Twitter the other day. And this buddy of mine.
This is always a good story. When you know I was on Twitter the other day.
I probably could find the tweet, but this buddy of mine tweeted that he was, watching an NFL game, whatever, with his daughter, who's like 3 years old, and they're having a great time. When all of a sudden it breaks into a commercial, and the commercial is that Exorcism commercial, and he's like, now I have to deal with a 3-year-old who is scared to go to bed now.
This is... I can't even imagine having to deal with that, because, I mean, as a kid, we dealt with that.
Yeah.
It was just the thing, we'd see, like, Halloween time, trailers for scary movies, or even, like, late at night, that's when, some of those trailers come out. Now films have to pump their trailers out in any medium at any time,
any medium, yeah,
for whatever they need because of streaming and that changing that whole game. I would be so mad as a parent.
Yeah, like I've been watching like TV with them, like sports, soccer, whatever, and if the Exorcism, that new Exorcism movie came out,
it's freaking creepy.
It's creepy.
We're stepping out of our. I mean, a lot of the movies that we're going out are more
thriller, suspense.
We will try to do a couple more scary movies next year. We're going to weed our ways into over the next several years. So suck it up, okay? Or maybe we'll have other guests on to talk about the Halloween one. But yeah. But this week it's Halloween time. My wife loves decorating for Halloween time, so there's that.
Yeah. But before we jump into our movie today, we wanted to remind you listeners to please subscribe wherever you get your podcast, to make sure you turn on your notifications, so that way, as soon as an episode comes out, you never miss out on anything new that's coming out.
If you want to join our conversation, be sure to follow us on social platforms at Real Chums. And if at the end of the episode you really want to tell us how you feel, then be sure to email us at you're@realchums.com. Question of the day.
Yeah.
Are we just really trying to sell sodas?
Let's dig into this, because over the past couple of weeks we've had the U.S. hearings on UFOs. Mexico had a Senate hearing.
Did they?
Last week. Wait, you haven't heard this?
No,
dude. Where have you been?
I've been trying to get clients. Been marketing.
Yeah, no. Last week, as of recording, Mexico
had their own hearings.
And they brought out aliens that they found in Peru or somewhere in South America.
Okay.
And
what?
I mean, it's a huge hoax. The guy that presented it in the past has been like,
bro,
has been found to be making things up. Okay, but literally, just the idea that a government Senate is having another series of outside of the United States is having another like hearings on extraterrestrials, and someone comes in with two alien specimens, and then they go through the X-rays and they show that this one had eggs and ovaries, and like they were probably pregnant and whatnot, and like
of course they would do. Of course Mexico would do this.
Dude, get on after this.
Oh, freak!
Look up the.
How long of a rabbit hole did you go down?
Oh, dude, this is all. It was trending on Twitter for all week.
Dude, I just wasn't. I guess I wasn't on Twitter enough last week because that's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, no.
Okay, wait. My thing is, how did they let this guy, if he's like a known conspiracy situation,
but he's also a known scientist and whatever. But he's not a conspiracy theorist, but he is a prolific scientist who in the past has made some
claims that people were like they tried to dismiss because they're like aliens aren't real.
Yeah,
bro. I mean, I love that we're doing this movie because signs. Which, wait, you didn't answer my question.
Oh yeah, what was the question again?
Are we just really in it right now to try to sell sodas?
All I know is that while I was watching these hearings, there were several soda commercials going on. So maybe that's all it is. You're right.
They just want us to go buy sodas. I just loved that line so much in this film. It was like the perfect, just little. I think part of it is that line. I totally know who in my life would have said that.
Who in your life would say that? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's dive into signs. We for many years. In fact, I had a job early in my career where there was a filmmaker who, I say filmmaker because he considered himself a documentarian, but at the time he gave me videos. It was done in Spanish. I was translating for English and creating subtitles and creating like a DVD menu, like a whole king caboodle. And it was all about the Mothman and aliens and all this stuff. And I remember halfway through that I was like, oh, these guys, this is what they're talking. Like I was translating. I was working. I wasn't even thinking about like what was happening in everything. And
once you had the finished product, you were like, "Oh, that's what."
Well, like as I got halfway through, and I realized that like it was the Mothman. Really, like everything else was like I was just like translating words and making sure everything was good and go from there, right? And then I got to the Mothman. I'm like, okay, and I had to go back and like look at everything that I had done, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. It's fine. And now we have these Senate hearings. Twice in a year here in the United States. No, yeah, twice.
We had
this year or more. There might have been more, but we had one
last year, right?
Yes,
I get two within a year. I think.
Yeah, two within a year time span for whatever. But in that like,
and then Mexico having
and then Mexico like, and then having legit like, well, and then the release that Area 51 is real. During the Trump stuff, which was just another Tuesday, and Wednesday. I mean, it was just another Wednesday for all this other stuff. So we're just like, which is just funnier for this film because like the entire world kind of shuts down. Yeah, because aliens start like there's sightings and like crop stuff. So
the synopsis for this movie, and again, listeners, we're going full spoilers ahead, but if you haven't seen it, pause this episode, go watch it. Go watch this movie. It's a really good movie.
It is a good movie.
It's a great movie, and I
think Joaquin and Mel Gibson were such a
they're great together.
They are great together. I would love to see them back again in some capacity together.
And not just that, but I think Joaquin has the best like comedic beats in this movie. Yeah. And I forget he is funny. Oh. Like he is a funny, like he can do it all. Yeah. And we recently did Come On a couple weeks ago.
Fantastic movie.
Great movie. And he's also very like lighthearted in that and just genuine and sincere. But like I want more like Joaquin in like funny comedic roles. Joaquin, because you're listening. Take on like a funny movie. Just do a comedy. That's all. Please. Okay, but the synopsis. So the movie takes place out in Clark County, Pennsylvania. A family, the father, who's a former Christian reverend minister, wakes up one morning, finds crop circles out in their fields, kind of plays it off as someone doing a prank. Then, as the movie progresses, turns out this is happening throughout the world, which leads everyone to kind of question their purpose and what's happening, and kind of bring some comfort or fear to others.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Sweet.
You know what I really liked about this movie this time, though?
Yeah.
I love, and you kind of talk about how, like, you know, this is happening all over the world. I love that this movie is just from the point of view of this family.
Oh, okay. You're done. We're diving right in.
Let's just dig into it.
Okay, look, M. Night Shyamalan. I mean, he did Sixth Sense.
He had done Sixth Sense. He had done another movie that... He had done two movies right before this. One that he starred in like 1994. He did some other one. And then Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs.
Okay. M. Night Shyamalan is such a intriguing filmmaker. Period. What I loved about this movie, and what I think I love about many of his pieces of work, is that he understands the medium.
Mm-hmm.
I think I look at him and I think he loves the classics. He loves Hitchcock.
Yeah.
He loves. He understands the idea of what to show, what not to show. He understands what are the benefits of writing and the directing, like how they complement each other when you get to do both of them, but also why he loves doing what he does. He likes to have his hand in that, because this film, it's a thriller that just is, like you said, it focuses on one family in one county in one town.
In one house.
In one house.
Yeah.
Really. Like ultimately in one house. And it's about one individual impact in this whole story. Mm-hmm. This easily could have been some like big like sci-fi like invasion film that like could have had multiple, like could have had several storylines. But I think it's a powerful choice to start and just focus on one individual family.
And we see what's happening throughout the world, but we're seeing it from the perspective of the family as they're watching it through the news, right? Or what they're hearing from the sheriff. Why do you love it? Because it's for me, it's such an intimate way. And I say this, okay. My wife does not like alien movies. Like I told her we were doing this, and she's like, she literally did the whole like vomiting motions as I told her. And I'm like, why don't you like it? She's like, because it's aliens. This is not an alien movie.
This is not an alien movie.
And I said this to her, and I'll say it as she's listening to this episode again. This is not an alien movie.
Did she watch it with you?
No, she didn't watch it with me. I think she watched this once, and I've wanted to watch it with her over our decade-long marriage, and she was like, nah. And so I finally got to watch it. I'm like, this is not an alien movie. So the fact that this movie just scales it all down to just this family from their point of view makes it so intimate for me. And it also lets me focus on what the real story is. Because you just said it, right? Like you could have gone through so many different storylines or given us tons of perspectives. Or even like a movie like Arrival.
Oh, yes.
A phenomenal movie. We'll get to it one day. That movie does really good at like narrating as she's narrating and telling us what's happening with all the other agencies across the world. That's fine. They could have done that here, but they chose not to, because the movie wants us to focus on the grief, the pain that Graham and his family is experiencing. Right, the wife died within 6 months of this movie, of these events taking place. Mm-hmm. So grief is very much present in their lives, and the movie again leverages the story of alien invasion to help us navigate what grief is and how we overcome that through various themes and whatnot.
Do you know another film that does this well?
The other film that comes to mind, so Contact.
Okay.
1997's Contact, Robert Zemeckis, is a great movie that uses alien and science fiction to tell a story about belief and faith. Similar to here, however, that one is very large scale because it's using politics, science to tell this larger story about an individual's story of finding peace and faith. But like science, I can't think of one. I've heard a lot of, not similarities, but same usage of aliens and some of these themes with Jordan Peele's latest movie, Nope.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen it. It's on my watch list.
Yep.
And I try to get to it before I watch this because I've heard there's a lot of overlap here. But
I watched it once, but Extinction, which is a 2018 film that was done by Netflix that stars Michael Pena. I remember having some beats. It was a little bit more aggressive in the science fiction and that stuff. But I remember having like this undertoning of like focusing on a specific apocalyptic film. But I might be remembering wrong because it's been a couple of years since I watched it. But what I think, what you're correct in the fact that like for me, M. Night Shyamalan leveraged. He's like, I want to tell a story, but I want it to be applicable, and I want to use this as the engine to help tell this story.
yeah,
I think, and I don't, again, a lot of times as filmmakers, a lot of times I find that new filmmakers always want to, when they do a movie, they immediately go to a horror film. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times those films struggle really hard because they don't have proper budgets. Like they're doing favors. It like ends up, not working the way, they cut corners on X, Y, and Z for the makeup or whatever else, like dialogue or story. And it falls on its flats. Mm-hmm. Falls flat on its face time and time again.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people don't make good horror films when they're doing student films, or even just like as a budding filmmaker or whatever. But what I find is that like they tend to focus too much on the things that that don't help the film. And I think what this movie does that Shyamalan really emphasizes, that he says, I'm going to focus on leveraging filmmaking and story to add greater tension to this sci-fi horror film or suspense film.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to spend all my budget on several scenes that have the things I want to do for payoff. Mm. And to me, when that is what is missed. I think if you're going to do, like, look at Signs, look at some other films that have some other aspect that might be, film or romance or action or whatever as a motivator for the greater story. But if you look at what the movie's doing, it's simple. Anyone really, especially now, could make a Signs.
Yeah.
You and I, if with a couple of 3D models, accessible motion capture through different things, we could do something. It would take time,
sure,
but we could do it.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, and it's not to say that like anyone could be M. Night Shyamalan. What I'm saying is that like the skills to be able to create the creature is super easily accessible. Mm-hmm. The ability to create a compelling story is something that takes skill. And I think Shyamalan and the team with actors and performances and the way they edited this film to fit, the story is really great. and I forgot how great it was.
It's so good.
And I'm so glad we're doing this, revisiting it, because I remember this being huge. I remember the scene, the jump scares. I didn't jump for a lot of them at this time.
Oh, dude, I did, man. I
think part of it was I was trying to finish some other things up. So the first half of it, I was perhaps a little bit more distracted than I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. I still had some towards the end where the scare with the arm through the vent with with
Rory Culkin.
Yeah.
Bo.
Yeah. That one got me for sure.
You're talking the first time you watched this, or this most?
No,
recent
I'm talking about this right now.
Oh, okay.
No. I'm talking about now. I'm talking about that. That one still got me.
Yeah.
But like most of the other ones, I'm like, I remember this.
Yeah.
But I had a smile on when I was remembering those and thinking, man, I'm excited to watch this with my girls when they get old enough to watch it, because it's gonna be like that fun excitement of like, what's happening? Because they build so well the tension between the alien and the tension between Mel Gibson's character in finding faith.
Mm-hmm. I love that you talk about the story here, because I think a lot of, and you brought this up about filmmakers going into horror early on in their careers to kind of break through, but horror has for decades has been used as a great medium to tell additional stories about humanity, right? If we look at in the 50s at Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right?
Oh yeah,
great movie, but the whole movie was about McCarthyism, right? Yeah. You look at Signs, right? It's a movie about faith. You look at Get Out most recently, and Nope, and Us, and they have these horror elements, but they're talking about social commentary, right? So it's great. It's a great way that anyone can theoretically make a science movie, but what makes it so different is that story. It's that human story about this individual and this family and the struggle that they have. I want to ask you something about. Let's talk about the characters. In this case, Mel Gibson's character Graham Hess. What is it about Graham and also Mel Gibson's performance that really grounds this story and makes it about them and not so much about aliens?
Wow, that's a great question, Marcel. I think I've been trying to think about this because I finished it this morning, and I there's something to be. I think part of it is I mean on IMDb, if you look at some of the facts, that like M. Night Shyamalan wanted Mel for this character because he felt like he, according to the IMDb trivia or the like fun facts, whatever, that like Shyamalan wanted him because he felt like he would do anything to save his children.
Okay.
And to me, he kind of has a similar role, like the same feeling that I get to a degree that Nolan ends up bringing in Interstellar with McConaughey.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, like Nolan takes inspiration from Shyamalan and Gibson as, they like were thinking. But what I think Mel does is he is focused on his own struggles. And he's just trying to he's still battling the grief and an anger with a God or a greater being that he felt like he understood.
Yeah.
And that's what I think grounds him. He's not caught up in the moment of like the horror. Not that he doesn't notice it and doesn't like acknowledge different moments, but he's worried more about himself and his family and how he's going to get through life.
And what a relatable character that is for everyone, whether you're religious or not. I think at some point, everyone, takes a step back and says, God or whoever, universe, like higher power, like, why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? Right. And I think everyone at some point has to go through that. Again, whether you're religious or not, you do tend to ask those questions to yourself at some point.
Was there something that you felt that helped? Was there something else that you felt like this character brought or that had that, or did you feel the same way?
I think I felt the same way, but I think it's that aspect that it's a character that is very relatable. And whether you're a parent or not, at some point, you said it perfectly at the end. He's just trying to make it through life, right? Through life at this stage, 6 months post losing their mom, his wife, right? We are all just trying to get through life. 2 days after whatever just happened 2 days ago, a year after whatever happened a year ago, or just right now, right? Like we're all, not that we're barely making it or surviving, no, but like we're all going through something, and we're all trying to do the best that we can through it.
No matter what the world thinks, whatever's happening in the world, we all have our own battles that we may be, facing. If that's why, like social media can, there's billboards right now that social media is harming your child. And I just think, is it harming my child, or is it that because of what we do for social media, we are trying to play our own movie in a public digital space that then impacts how we ourselves see ourselves. And in like different stages of our lives.
Yeah.
We had a conversation earlier before we had this podcast.
It's true.
About struggles that I'm facing, right, that are trying to get through, right? And it's when we forget, and I think what I love about this movie is that it is so relatable. If you watch this movie, like I think what I think I love about this movie is that, and scary movies like, or suspenseful movies that leverage horror or suspense or some other medium as the engine, is that you can grow with it as you grow as a human. As a kid, I loved
the
alienness of the like suspense of like, are we going to see it? Like, are they going to attack? What's going to happen?
Yeah, right. But that's not what this is about.
That's not what this is about.
And now as an adult, you see it from a completely different perspective.
Yes.
These signs, that the movie gives us and how we interpret them, right? It's a masterclass in storytelling. It's this
stealing from Shrek over here. It's an onion, man. You just peel it to get down deeper into more layers, and it depends on the character you're looking at. So to me, what's the first layer? What are we looking at? What's the first layer that perhaps we first look at, we see
on Graham's character?
I think in this family's life,
I think there is pain, right? There is pain, and we see Bo later, like throughout the movie, or in a scene with Meryl, with Joaquin Phoenix's character. He says, "I wish you were my dad," right? So there is pain that he's feeling, and now he's projecting it by trying to reject his father, because dad has kind of shut himself off.
Right.
Why has dad shut himself off? Because he is in grief. He's in pain. He has lost his faith on this deity who he felt, like you said, who he thought he had a good relationship with, right? You have Meryl, who has decided to, I don't know what kind of career he had, but quit everything to go back and support his brother and live on the second floor of the barn or whatever it is, and just be a support to his brother and his kids, right? So like there's this constant pain from all these characters, and maybe not pain, but uncomfortableness, pain and grief, right? And I think, again, because pain and grief is something that humans are very well accustomed to. That's how we relate to these characters. No, I haven't had my wife die in a car accident, but I have felt pain. I have felt grief. I have felt loss in my life, right? And I can relate to that. I have felt those familial dynamics where there might be some rejection, or there might be some, or not even just in the family. We've all experienced that with friends, coworkers, in wherever it is, right? So I think that's the first thing that I experience here with this group of individuals.
I love it, because I think that is what we feel, and then it kind of transitioned to like a sense of fear, of an easiness, and I think I really want to spend a little bit on this. I want to talk about, I think it's almost the midpoint, and that when Graham and Meryl have the kids and are watching the TV.
Yeah.
This scene is freaking beautiful.
I like to think that Night Shyamalan based this entire movie on this dialogue. I don't know if this is true or not.
I don't know either.
One day we'll have him on the pod and we'll ask him. Okay, but
we're gonna put it down to stone. We're gonna interview Shyamalan, because that's such a wonderful question to ask, because it's a long scene.
It's a long dialogue between the two of them, right?
But it is the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, I don't know if there's a term. I like, again, I'm like, there might be some sort of term in like story arcs or something that like is like, but it's like the keystone to this like what the how they peel back the layers to then set up, but also give payoff to.
And I put this in my own personal notes, but this movie is great about setups and payoffs. We'll get to it. But this scene that you're talking about, right? The whole movie, the first act, second act, and third act it all hinges on this interaction between brothers.
Bro, I love that you said hinges. That's a perfect word for it. It's the linchpin of the movie.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, I think that Seth Godin has a great book on this, but also like there's this idea in social what is it called? Social freaking words.
Societal.
Sociology.
Sociology.
That's right. Right. The study of like people. Right. Mm-hmm. That there are individuals out there that they don't have a pivotal role in different things, but without them, the engine doesn't work. Like they're in team stuff and in companies and in other issues. There are individuals or things that if it's not there, actually, even though they don't have a pivotal role, are the things that help make everything actually work.
Yeah. Yeah.
The linchpin, right? This is what this movie has. This scene is the linchpin. Without this scene, there's no setup. There's also no payoffs, as well as the fact that like it is without this, even if this movie could still have been done, but this movie is what it is because of this scene.
Yes. Look, so for those of you that haven't seen the movie, this scene, Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix characters are sitting on a couch. They're watching the news. And the news is showing in Mexico City there are these lights that are flashing,
just like UFO sightings, like literally a whole bunch of UFOs,
and they're just floating in the air, right? They're nothing is happening except it's nighttime, and all you see are these lights that are floating in the air.
It is nighttime at their home. There's a medium wide shot over the TV. You're looking at. Graham and Meryl, they have each of them have one of the kids. The kids are like, we're also watching, but then they get to a point where it's late enough. The kids have fallen asleep. They're still just like watching this TV. And when it goes into Meryl begin to ask Graham a question, which is the first real moment that we get clues that he was he was some sort of reverend or leader in the church.
The sheriff calls him father, right?
And this time I forgot that, like, I had complete kind of spaced that he was this.
Yeah.
That I thought that maybe this was like, I was like, oh, is this she's like maybe remembering some other life or something because of the aliens, and she's calling him father, and he's like, stop calling me that.
Yeah.
But then I remember that he was an actual reverend, because it's been such a long time since I've seen this movie.
Yeah.
But this is the moment, like, you're halfway through the movie when we get Meryl really confronting him about, look, step back and put yourself in the shoes. Even though we get the scene, I guess, with the pharmacist girl.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, legitimately getting confronted about the situation, right, by his brother. Shyamalan goes into a reverse over the shoulder.
Yes.
Okay, so traditionally, an over the shoulder shot or a conversation shot would be in this scene. I wish I had my iPad. So in this scene would be, so if we were facing this way, we would have, this is what the standard shot would be.
Yeah.
Like what you see now.
Cameras right here.
Yeah, your cameras are like,
right
like we have it. What he's done is he's crossed the 180 degree line, and he's placed the shot as if he was on this other end, and he's looking past the other shoulder to both of the characters. It is a beautiful leverage of setting it, because the reason why there is this line, it's the 180 degree, that if you cross this line, you actually flip the individuals in the scene.
Yeah.
There's like there's a rule. It is often used in, there's some great movies recently that I can't remember off the top of my head that like use it masterfully in full like active dialogue. The dialogue will happen, and then all of a sudden the dialogue will begin to shift to a more nefarious feel. And look, they'll manually take the camera in like a dolly shot, and they'll like pan it over. I'll see if I can pull some stuff. Because I can't think of the film that does it, or even the show that does it really well. I want to say a James Bond film. Anyways, so they'll start on the regular, the standard side, because what you do is you establish the scene. Once you establish the scene, there's an imaginary line. Then you have your shots like we have now. If we had a third camera over here, that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
What Shyamalan is, he's crossed it intentionally when he goes to the over the shoulder shot. That creates tension. It creates uneasy. It creates a sense of not necessarily conflict, but it creates of this is maybe uncomfortable
uneasiness.
Yeah,
you're right.
And it is so good because it's not only uneasy with the sense that it's crossed the lines and reversed, but also the framing of it. It's super dark.
Yep.
Mel's side, there's the housing set up. There's like another, it almost feels like a bar, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So like he feels super claustrophobic.
Yep.
And then on Meryl's, Joaquin's Phoenix side, he's taking up a ton of the frame, and you're almost like you're there as Meryl experiencing what's actually happening.
Yes.
And you're finding that your brother is in a darker place than you realized.
Yes. I love that you explain those camera angles, because it sets this feeling of uncomfortableness, of tension. And the conversation is they're quiet. It's not like Mel Gibson's character is being aggressive or confronting in any way. He is just saying, look, or Meryl asks a question like, or says something along the lines like, people think that, it's like the end of the world or something like that, right? And Graham just says, look, people break that into two groups. First group sees those lights or when they experience something lucky, they think that someone is out looking for them, that, whether it's God or whoever, the universe, it's more than a coincidence. Group number two, they just see as pure luck. Something good happen, just luck. Yeah. It's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Right? But those in group number two, deep down, they look at those lights and they see that they're, at the end of the day, they're alone. There's no one there to help them, and that they just deep down they're just screwed, essentially.
I love then that Meryl comes in at this point and he gives this story about the hot girl from college or from school, and he's about to kiss her, and he goes to put gum away because he had gum in his mouth, and when he comes back, she had thrown up all over herself, and he's like, if I had kissed her, she would have thrown up all over me while we were kissing, and that would have scarred me for life.
Scarred me for life. I'm a miracle man.
I'm a miracle man. And then, and I think this scene is such a wonderful setup and payoff, because with not only does it set up a payoff for the end, but it also sets up Mel's struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It also reveals Mel's like what he's battling. But that he then it also pays off the setup of this scene and the reverse tension of the shot, because then Mel's Graham's character then says, "There's no one out there helping us." Go ahead.
Prior to that, Meryl, this is what I love about this scene. Meryl says, which one do you follow?
Oh, that's right.
And I wrote it down. Mel Gibson's character, Graham Hess, says, do you feel comforted? Then what does it matter? Which one I relate to, right? Then what does it matter? As long as you feel comforted, then why ask me which ones that I fall in?
Right.
And then he says, at the end of the day, we are by ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? And he very aggressively he states that.
But we also get a shot of Meryl's, like the Joaquin's performance here really drives home the emphasis, because Mel also, he's like, this would have been such a palpable scene, honestly, because it's a palpable on camera.
Yeah, very.
It is beautiful. I think if you're gonna do a film, even if you are gonna go full horror and you're trying to do outside, and you really look at your script, look at your story, and find when is the moment that you need to be able that crosses a threshold where there's no coming back. Right? It's like that's what I learned in this film. Is like we established something. When is it? Because this wasn't the inciting incident, right? But this is the moment where we realize there is such a big change in this individual. Is he ever going to come back from that? Because we know that, like, the inciting incident in the situation that the crop that the crop corn crops field sign happened, and then a continual goes from there, right? But maybe this is the moment where we find out that Graham's character feels left alone after being someone who
gave it all.
Yeah.
Gave it all to his God, right? To his faith, to his belief, to him, right? And now he feels rejected, because at the end of the day, he is at this moment alone, uncomforted, and therefore everyone at the end of the day, in his opinion, is in the same boat.
Okay, I want to know how do we get from this point that we just talked about? Mm-hmm. It's such a beautiful, just so good, to the payoff. What are the things that happen that begin to help shape this story to such a great ending?
I think what I really loved this time around as well was the flashback scenes to his wife. And I liked that the movie did
something like that.
5 flashbacks. It wasn't just one flashback scene and here's everything that happened. Like, right? No, it showed him at first, like, pulling up on a car and, like, the sirens going off. Then it goes back to present day. Then the next thing, he's getting out of the car and he's talking to the sheriff, right? Cut, present day. So it does this several times. It's inviting us as viewers to give us little clues, little moments of what's really happening with this character. And then it all accumulates to that last scene. He even tells, I think, in that same scene, he tells Meryl, like, did I ever tell you what was her last words? What was her last words? And his explanation, right? It was the last words were, "Tell Meryl,
Swing away."
And something else, but I can't remember what it was. What were the last words?
I know. Look. Keep talking.
But the idea is, he says, the way Graham's character explains is that the neurons in her brain are just firing off. The nerves are kind of shutting down, and it's just projecting random images, memories. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Right? The cynicism in this man.
But yeah, it's so freaking good.
But again, it's a setup. It sets it up.
Yeah.
We then see that scene, and then it pays off at the end, where he's now has the alien on the left hand side that's holding Bo. He has Meryl off to the right, who's standing right next to the bat, and it all comes flooding in, and he realizes that there are no coincidences, to the point where he tells Meryl, swing away.
On Meryl's side, like, I think for the rest of the film, like, leading up to the end, he's kind of bad. He kind of he says he's a miracle man, but then he kind of joins the kids in feeling that no one's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he starts doing the
little aluminum foil hats,
which I almost paint you, be like, you're bringing aluminum, right? we should have.
We should have. Darn it.
Maybe we should do. Well, anyways, but and other like little moments of him beginning to have greater fear,
mm-hmm.
and him getting obsessed over the television, and these sort of things. But I love the way, look, some people might look, like I said, I look at this film, and some individual may look at this film and say, like, this movie's too basic.
Yeah. Which a lot of people criticize plot holes in this movie, right? With the aliens and the water and whatnot, right?
But it's not an alien movie.
It's not. That's what it is. It's not an alien movie, and you could come up with a million reasons and explanations as to why the aliens chose Earth, why they didn't realize that 2/3 of the planet is water, whatever. Right? Maybe it's something in the water, in our water, that's not in their water. I don't know. Okay, but it
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's the thing. It doesn't matter, because the movie, again, going back to what I said earlier, the movie chooses to tell us this story from the family's point of view. At that moment, if you're in that moment and an alien has your child and you find out that water is scarring it, you're not going to ask, well, why? Why'd you come here, man?
I mean,
you're just going to take it, right? And again, because the movie structures itself to be told from their point of view.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm okay that
there's plot holes
in everything, right?
I mean, look, if you haven't watched this movie in years because you're like, the plot holes, like, it wasn't really good, blah, 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 you need to stop.
You I'm looking at you in the camera right now. You have matured as an individual. You have grown. You are better than you were in 2002 when this movie came out. Okay? Because that's life.
So go out
and watch this again.
Watch it for movie night and enjoy the beauty of this film, because this movie, I love that culmination of that scene where we get the alien for the first time in full view. Mm-hmm. And even then, like, I love that they chose to not make it about the alien. They made the alien obscure.
Yep.
Still dark. We don't get full features. Because, again, it's not about the alien.
No.
What I absolutely love, that you're reminding me, especially as we were talking about it, and this is why I love doing this podcast, is that this idea that there is no coincidences. Life has these moments that, when you look back on it, help to get us to the moment. And which comes back to the fact that of another movie that we watched which is the Dead Poet Society.
Yeah.
Is to seize the day.
Mm-hmm.
When you're stuck in moments that you're looking back or you're thinking about the future and you forget to take this moment now, you may lose that moment of realizing that something passes you by that then has to take another year to go by.
Yep.
Because I love these little clues, like, the driver, Graham comes over to the guy who ends up falling asleep at the wheel, who crashes.
Right. Yeah.
And he comes, the shot there too. Here's another beautiful shot. Okay. This movie is absolutely simple, but is a reminder that the fundamentals.
Yep. Yeah.
Are fundamentals because they're the key. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A gimbal shot to push in. If you have a locked on shot with a good dialogue scene that helps build this other thing, is just so good. The scene he comes in to go confront him for some reason. I can't remember why. Anyways,
he called him, right?
Oh yeah.
Ray calls him and he hangs up suddenly.
Right. He comes over to the house. Graham sees him in the he looks at the house, then he goes looks at the truck. He's in his truck. He goes over. He notices that he's wounded, and then he just tells him, "I've had your phone number next to my phone for the last 6 months," and he's like, "It's never happened to me. If I had fallen asleep, it's like I didn't know why I fell asleep at this one moment.
It's like it was meant to be," he says.
Yes. Right? Like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Then he goes, he's like, "Hey, by the way, there's they don't like water." I go, that he's locked in my cupboard. Don't go in there.
Yeah.
What is he going to do? He goes,
of course he goes
right? Great scene. He cuts him. This is the only alien that stays back. Again, it's not about the alien. It's about this individual and his life.
Yeah.
That leads him to these moments that ultimately needed to have to afford his moment so that his kids would be fine. Look, we are two individuals that we served missions, and I have stories.
Yeah.
You have stories.
Yeah.
Where we saw people's lives change, and maybe we were the only ones that came in to help those individuals. Maybe not even join the church, but to help them get through a moment in their life that at
that moment. Yeah.
That they're struggling.
Yeah. And that's the power of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I think, again, whether you're religious or not, or whatever religion or not, this is a movie about faith. And faith in yourself, faith in others, faith in a deity, it's just faith. And the power that faith can have to change your life for the better.
Oh, dude, thank you. I love that.
That's what this movie is, period. And there's so many ways to perceive it, to dissect it. But that's at its core, that's what this movie is. It's a movie about faith and finding your own beliefs.
I think Merrill said it best. He's, Merrill, we know a little bit about him, but like the fact that he's like, "Aren't you the guy who did that crazy hit that was 570 was some crazy yard, so many yards?" I think they have a plaque at it towards the end. Again, another small insight, another big payoff. Okay, that I love that he then says, "Well, but what happened? Did you always just swing at everything? Had the most strikeouts?" And look at this negative aspect. And I love Merrill's quote where he responds with, "It just felt wrong not to swing." Yeah.
Just do it. Just take the chance. Take the opportunity. I love this movie.
I'm glad that we put. I'm not gonna lie. When we first brought it up, I was like, "Oh yes, we'll do Signs. That'll be a good one."
I do remember that. Like I had to twist your arm, man,
bro. This is just a wonderful example that I've grown.
Yeah.
I've grown as a filmmaker, as a lover of film, as an adult, as a person. And I see the message that Shyamalan brought to us that that I didn't get when I first the first couple times I saw it.
Yeah, that you didn't. It kind of goes over you. I'm gonna make a bold statement here. I've always been a M. Night fan. Always, from the first time I saw Sixth Sense as an 11-year-old, and I was just like mind blown. Okay, Signs. We owned this movie on DVD, and I would watch the behind the scenes and everything. Like, I think M. Night Shyamalan's movies are the movies that, like, I talked about how Jurassic Park is the movie that shaped my love for movies. I'm like 98% sure that I can attribute M. Night Shyamalan's movies to the movies that led me to want to be a filmmaker. Eventually I didn't. Dropped out of college.
Whoa.
to one semester of film, and then I was like, eh.
No. Okay, listen, Marcel. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again right now. We're gonna do a film.
We are gonna do a film.
You're a filmmaker as much as I am. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah,
okay?
no, that's true. Yes,
we're gonna do a film together, without a doubt. All right, so don't put that stuff aside.
That's true. But I've always been a Shyamalan like fanatic, an apologist, because I know he's had several rough movies. Okay, and I always find myself like defending the man. But I will say this: I think there are two filmmakers that, in my opinion, do incredible job at framing their scenes: Wes Anderson and Shyamalan. Very differently and very distinctively, but in my opinion, they're the best at framing a scene and a shot to tell a story. And I love Shyamalan. Again, one day we'll have him on the pod.
We'll get there.
This is a great movie. I love it.
I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm sad I didn't actually watch it with my wife because I had stuff to do. But I'm 100% going to probably watch this again with her. And then probably in 2 years, I'll watch it with my girls.
Okay.
My youngest is probably still a little too young. She might not love it. But my older one, she's getting into Goosebumps. And I think like 2 years, she'll be perfect. My little one, my youngest one will be just old enough to be like, with a collective group that will like be there for her, she'll be fine.
Sure.
So, because it's so good.
It's so good.
With that being said, we hope you enjoyed today's episode and would love it if you could subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcast. We would also love it if you'd leave a review. It helps us get discovered.
More importantly, what did you think of Signs? Is this your first time watching it? How many times have you seen it? How do you feel about it now that you've kind of let it bake a little bit? Let us know what you think we missed. Follow us on social at Real Chumps, both on Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. Or you can email us at realchumps.com. You can also find me and Danny on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY.
And I'm Rubio_TV. Join us next week as we continue our journey into some of our favorite spooky films with Jordan Peele's Get Out.
You haven't seen this.
Which I haven't seen.
I'm excited for you.
But I know it's super good. I haven't got around to seeing it, so I'm excited to talk about it.
I'm gonna preface this by saying this is one of those movies that I think about on a weekly basis since it came out. So make sure you watch it if you haven't yet, and come back.
We'll see you next week.
Later.